In this video, we're going to discuss the difference between normal goods and inferior goods in economics. So we know that a change in people's income is going to affect demand, right? So it's going to affect demand for goods and services, going to affect demand for cars and stuff. But the question is it going to increase demand or is it going to decrease demand? And the answer to that question depends on the good in question. Is the good a normal good or is it an inferior good? Most goods are considered to be normal goods. And what we mean by normal goods is that if people's income increases, then people are going to demand more of that good. There's going to be an increase in demand. So let's take sports cars, for example. So if people's incomes increase, then there's going to be an increase in demand for sports cars. So we can think of that as something that is a normal good. Sports cars are a normal good. Now, if something happens like a recession or something and there's a decrease in people's incomes, then that's going to decrease demand for the sports cars. So we can think about it like that. But, so you might be saying, oh, okay, easy. People's income goes up, demand goes up. But it depends, because if it's an inferior good, then we're going to have actually the opposite effect. With an inferior good, if people have an increase in their income, they're actually going to demand less of the good. They're going to start buying something else. They say, oh, I got a raise at work. I don't have to buy ramen noodles anymore. They get excited. Now, if there's a decrease in their income, like a recession or they lose their job or something, they actually increase demand for that good. So it seems kind of weird, but it's basically the inferior good behaves in the opposite way of the normal good. So I want to give you a couple examples. So let's take the demand for chocolate bars, and then let's take the demand for potatoes. And instead of potatoes, you could think of something like ramen noodles, if you know what ramen noodles are, something like that. Some kind of cheap good that people buy because it's inexpensive. And so we're going to say that potatoes or ramen noodles, we'll think about that as our inferior good. So this is going to be an inferior good. And then the chocolate bars we'll consider to be a normal good. And so what does that mean? That means that if we've got our demand for chocolate bars and people's incomes increase, let's say that people's incomes double or something. Let's say people's incomes increase dramatically and we want to know the effect on demand for chocolate bars and potatoes. Well, because we know that chocolate bars are a normal good, because they're a normal good, then an increase in people's incomes is actually going to increase demand. So when demand increases, remember that demand is going to shift to the right. So we're going to have a new demand curve, D2, let's call it, and we are going to shift to the right. People are going to buy more chocolate bars. Their income's doubled and they say, hey, you know what? Now I could buy a lot more chocolate. I really like chocolate bars. Now, let's think of the same thing, a doubling of people's income or triple, something happened, somebody got a raise at work, people are doing a lot better. And now let's think about the demand for potatoes, or if you want to think about it, the demand for ramen noodles or something cheap. The idea is something that people is very inexpensive and that people would like to buy something, maybe they see as higher quality than ramen noodles or something, right? So when the people's incomes increase, they say, okay, you know what? I'm tired of buying ramen noodles. I've had enough of that. I want to buy some chocolate bars, or I want to buy some steak or something. They want to buy something that they think is a lot better, that tastes better or something like that, right? They don't want the ramen noodles anymore just because it's cheap, because now their income is increased. So what's going to happen is their demand is going to decrease for these ramen noodles or potatoes or whatever this inexpensive item is. So we'll say D2. So demand has actually decreased. So what we notice is the following, that if for a normal good, when people's incomes increase, the demand is actually, it's going to shift to the right because demand is going to increase. They're going to demand more of it. However, when it's some kind of good that people see as they don't really want to be consuming it, they're only consuming it because it's cheap and they don't have a lot of money or something like that, then when their incomes increase, then they say, you know what, I don't have to buy ramen noodles anymore. I could buy something else. And so the demand is actually going to shift to the left.